Listening to The Josh Bernstein Show, where liberalism is a mental disorder. And Josh is the cure.
Welcome back, folks, to the program. She's back. My guest today is back on the show. She is a 1970s, 1980s television icon. Starred in the American movie classic American Graffiti as Laurie Henderson, which is ranked on American Film Institute's top 100 films of all time. She later went on to co-star as the lovable character on the very successful television program Laverne Shirley. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show once again the wonderful and amazing Cindy Williams.
Well, hello, Josh.
How are you doing?
Well, thank you for that introduction. After that, I'm doing really well.
Well, good. I'm glad to have you back on the show. It's I know it's been, a couple of months, right? 2-3 months?
Yes, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Good. So how are things? Let's talk about the book first and foremost. Shirley, I Jest, by the way, is the book that Cindy has written. How are things going with the book?
Well, they're really going great.
Good. Where can folks find the book?
Amazon.com and, Barnes & Noble and various local bookstores, and I guess Kindle has it. You can get it on Kindle for a very moderate price. But it's nice to hold it in your hand. It's you can read it in an hour. It's more like a pamphlet in hardcover.
Well, you've gotten a lot of great reviews on the book, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Oh, Josh, thank you. And I'm thrilled, I have to say. I never expected to get, good reviews. So used to getting, slammed on most things, and I'm just so thrilled.
Well, good. I'm glad for that. So you started out doing commercials for TWA and a sunglass maker, Foster Grant, which led to some smaller roles in television and things like that. One of the first few movies, though, that you ever did was the coming-of-age classic American Graffiti. Tell the listeners how you got this role and who did you have to beat out to get it?
American Graffiti?
Yes.
Nobody. I wanted. There were three female parts in American Graffiti. There was Carol, the 12-year-old who rides around with the Paula Matt character.
Right, that was Mackenzie, right? Mackenzie Phillips?
Mackenzie Phillips played that part. There was Debbie, the fast girl, who Charlie Martin Smith ends up with. And then there was Laurie Henderson, who plays Ron Howard's girlfriend in the movie, Steve's girlfriend. And when I came into the, onto the scene, Laurie was the only character that hadn't been cast. They couldn't find anyone to play this ingenue, this weeping ingenue, who cries through the whole movie. And I, of course, read the script. I had just gotten back from Spain doing travels with my aunt, and I had no sooner gotten home than I got a call, and they said, would you come in and meet with this new director who's casting this movie that's this low-budget, independent movie that's going to be a Universal film, it's going to be a very good movie, and you're going to want to be in it. And I said, no, I'm too tired, I'm jet-lagging, and no. And they said, oh, no, you're going to want to do this movie. It's going to be really hip, and you're going to want to be in it. And I said, no. And they said, please. And I said, oh, all right. And then they sent the script over. I read it, and I said, I'm not interested in playing this part. I'd love to play one of the other parts. They said, they're already cast. We can't find anyone to play this part. And anyway, the bottom line is I went in, I met with this director. It happened to be George Lucas, didn't say much, but he asked me if I'd come in the next day and screen test. I didn't want to, but I did, and I screen tested with Ron Howard, and I had to hold my script because I couldn't memorize it overnight, and I was so tired, and I apologized for having to hold the script, and Ron said, "Oh, that's okay," and I begged for the other two parts, but like I said, they were already cast, and I got the part, and I was very happy I did in the end. But I didn't want to play that part because I wanted to play comedy, and I didn't want to have to, go through an entire movie crying,
right?
But I was very happy in the end that I did.
Fate has a way sometimes of working out. You actually almost became Princess Cindy. You were actually up for the role of Princess Leia, and apparently you did not get that part. I know that you worked with George Lucas previously. So it's interesting how things worked out, because if you would have gotten that part, you would have been doing the Star Wars, and you probably would not have been on Laverne and Shirley. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I was on Laverne and Shirley when I think I was already doing Laverne and Shirley when I tried out, among a cartload of other people, I might add. And there were a lot of other people that auditioned for the part, but among them, yes, there was me, but among them there was also Carrie Fisher. Mm-hmm. And, you really can't imagine Star Wars without Carrie Fisher. So, but yes, I did audition for Star Wars. George did have me come in and audition for it.
That is interesting because, obviously, you worked with him in the past, so you would have thought that you'd be kind of the shoe-in for it, and he went with a different direction. But that's somehow, directors see a certain different person for certain different roles, and I think in the end you did great.
But here's something interesting. Yes, I did, and I was very blessed, but can't complain. But here's the interesting thing, Josh. When we were doing American Graffiti, he was talking about this movie that he had, and he had always intended for all those parts, Han Solo, Luke, and Princess Leia, to all be like 14 years old. He wanted them to all be like young teenage kids, and that's why he went younger with the role, with Princess Leia and with Luke.
So he needed younger looking actors and actresses.
Well, he just wanted young teenage kids.
But you were just a spry little thing
parts.
At that age.
Well, I was time. Carrie was, I think, 17, 18, and I was like 26 at the time.
Oh, but the old maid. Listen to you.
I was an old maid. Yeah, that's exactly right, Josh.
Maybe for that cast, but certainly certainly not. Now, in our first interview together, you stated to me that you and Penny were writers on Happy Days, and did you both decide you weren't?
No, not on Happy Days. We were writers when we were writers together on another project when we went over to do the Happy Days episode.
Okay, gotcha. So you didn't actually write yourselves into that script, or was that directed by Gary Marshall to put you into it?
No, not at all. No, he asked us.
He asked you.
He wrote those two characters along with Lowell Gantz and Mark Rothman.
Got it. Okay. So Gary Marshall, he was born and raised in the Bronx in New York, but both Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley were both set in Wisconsin. Did he have other ties to that area, or is it just a coincidence that he decided to shoot both those shows in that area?
No, that was the other two producers on the show, Eddie Milkus and
Miller.
Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Oh gosh,
is it Thomas Miller?
Forgive me. Yes, Tom Miller. They were from. Tom Miller was from Milwaukee, and they were trying to come up with a place to set it in the Midwest. And so Tom Miller said, well, my family's from Milwaukee. And they said, yes, Milwaukee, perfect. And that's how it got set in Milwaukee.
That is so interesting. Now, a lot of my fans and listeners have been asking me this question on social media, and I kind of put it out there, like, what kind of questions would you like me to ask Cindy? And one of the ones that I got a lot was this one. Who came up with the famous Schlemiel, Schlemiel, Hotzenpfeffer Incorporated? What does it mean? And what was you and Penny's reactions to it when you first heard it?
Well, no, Schlemiel, Schlemazel was a little... pardon me, a little ditty that Penny used to say with her school chums on the way to school. That's how they mark off the steps walking to school. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Hotzenpfeffer Incorporated. And then they'd run, and then they'd do it again, and they'd do that little dance that you saw at the beginning of the show. And the way it came about on the show was we were shooting the opening titles to the show, and Gary was directing it, and we were doing all these different setups, and just toward the end of the day, we were on New York Street, and Gary said, "Oh, Penny, show Cindy how to do that little thing you did when you walked to school, and we'll shoot that." And so Penny taught it to me, and I had no idea what it meant, but she taught it to me, and we did it twice, and that was it, and, and we were off to the next one, and that was it. We shot it twice, did it twice, and it ended up in the show. And so a Schlemiel, it's like Dumb and Dumber. A Schlemiel is someone who would...
it's a Yiddish word, right?
It's Yiddish. It's Yiddish for Dumb and Dumber. And it's like a Schlemiel would jump off a building, and a Schlemazel is the person they would fall on.
So it's kind of an I'm with stupid.
They would land on. I mean, that's the best way. But Mark Rothman or Lowell Gantz or Gary Marshall could define it better. Could give you a better definition of a Schlemiel and a Schlemazel, a funnier definition.
That is interesting. So let's talk about something else. Let's let you set the record straight. There's been much written about how and why you left the show. Some reports say that you and Penny were fighting and made it more difficult to work together. However, when we last spoke, you mentioned how strong and close your friendship was and still is with Penny Marshall. So what was the main reason that you decided to leave the show?
Well, let me first say yes. My friendship with Penny is very strong. In fact, I'm going over to her house Thursday night to spend the night over there for 2 nights because I have to stay up in town. And did we fight on the show? Yes, we had creative differences, and we're very much alike, very different. But we were always respectful of one another on the show. And when we hit that stage, we were in total concert, total harmony. And the reason I left the show was I came on to the show in the 8th season. I had just gotten married. I was pregnant, and I just assumed they were going to hide my pregnancy as the season rolled on, behind couches. I'd hold pillows, bags of groceries. But when I looked at the contract, I couldn't sign it because they had me working on my due date. And I said, I can't be working on my due date, so we're going to have to work this around. And the studio hemmed and hawed and said, no, we're not going to change the schedule. And I said, fellas, come on. And they couldn't work it out, and it just went back and forth and back and forth, and I ended up off the show. Whether, I left or they fired me, it's just it's a draw. But it was really winding down anyway, and I was happy really to be home and off my feet and starting my family. And they went on a year after that without me, and it was called Laverne Company, and everything was fine.
Mm. Okay. Well, do me a favor. Hold that thought. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, I want to talk to you a little bit more about your career post Laverne and Shirley, and then a couple other things that we'll touch on before we wrap up, okay?
Okay.
All right. We'll be right there. Okay.
Okay, Josh.
You're listening to The Josh Bernstein Show, where liberalism is a mental disorder. And Josh is the cure.
Okay, folks, we are back to the program. In case you're just joining us, we are talking to the one, the only Cindy Williams, played Shirley Feeney on Laverne and Shirley. Cindy, let's talk about your career post Laverne and Shirley. I know that you did some television. I know that you did a couple of other movies that you've done. And then you also delved into Broadway and production and things like that. What is the difference from an actor's standpoint in doing Broadway and productions and plays rather than television? What's the main difference?
Well, I was a theater arts major, meaning that I was trained for the stage. And so when we did Laverne and Shirley, it was like doing a stage play each week. It was different than a lot of television. In other words, we had the TV cameras there, but we also had the audience, and we were on stage. So, and the way we rehearsed it was we began, on Monday, let's say, and then we rehearsed it all the way through, and on the fifth day we brought the audience in, and we ran the show from the beginning all the way to the end like a stage play. Like we just ran it through, and we just stopped to change our costumes and the sets, but we tried to run it all the way through like a stage play. So it was like that. Now a lot of television is not done that way. There's close-ups, and because we were a big show physically, we ran it high proscenium, so it was, there weren't that many close-ups. In other words, you weren't doing intimate acting, whereas a lot of television is one camera, they go in for choker shots, and you're doing that kind of intimate acting to the camera. Do you follow me?
I do, yeah. And that's kind of what I thought, too.
Right, and that's the same way with movies. It's very close, intimate acting. It's not broad theater acting, and it's not Broadway acting. And I prefer Broadway acting, and I really, had I done more movies and gone that way, I would have learned that technique more. But I'm more adept in stage acting than I am, one camera acting.
So besides acting, what is one thing that not too many people might know about you, that you either have a rare talent at doing or something that you'd like to share?
Ask me that again, Josh. Run that by me again.
Besides acting, what is one thing that not too many people might know about you that either you're very good at or that something you want to share that's a little different from the acting?
I'm an excellent waitress, and I can usually guess in a murder mystery who did it.
Okay. Those are two very important things, certainly in
life. Yes,
absolutely.
And I wanted to be an ER nurse.
That was going to be my next question. If you were not an actor, what do you think you most likely would have done career-wise?
I would have loved to have been a nurse, but I'm dyslexic, and I couldn't.
So you'd put the wrong medication in the...
Yeah, you don't want me as your nurse. Trust me.
So you wanted to go to, medical school and all that? You were actually thinking of taking that route as well?
I couldn't do it because I don't have an academic brain. I don't have the, I just couldn't do it. You don't want me collecting your urine sample and giving you your apple juice.
That is awesome. Oh, man. So let me ask you this. You had the characters on the show, and you had a lot of different characters. You had the neighbor, Miss Kolchak. We talked about her a little bit. You had Lenny. You had Squiggy. And then, obviously, you had a lot of guest appearances with Henry Winkler and Fonzie and things like that. Was there ever a moment on the show that you said to yourself, I can't believe we are doing this?
Oh, there were many moments.
What would be one that sticks out?
That we are doing this.
In other words, something that maybe was so crazy, you're like, I can't believe we're actually doing this on the show.
I can't pick one out. I can't think of one. I can't think. Well, we got hung on hooks. Mm-hmm. A Murphy bed almost ate us.
What about popping out of the cake? Was that something that you had to rehearse a lot?
No.
No? Was that fun?
No. It all kind of came naturally in the end, looking back on it. I remember, I'll tell you. I write about it in the book. we thought in the first season, Penny and I terms, so we gassed this thing. We rehearsed this thing where she was going to fly in on a rope, and she's modeling this lingerie, and I'm detailing it. I'm talking about it, and so I'm describing it as she flies in on this rope, and as Tarzan, as Jane, in this beautiful piece of lingerie, leopard, lingerie, and so Penny and I discussed it, and I said, okay, so you'll swing in, you'll hit the wall, and slide down slowly. That was going to be the gag, that she hits this wall in our living room, and she slides down slowly with our girls club, and then she gets up and dusts herself off and walks away. And so we'd rehearse in our minds, but we'd all save our energy for the actual show. We just mark it. And so when the actual show came and she gets on the rope and she swings in and hits the wall, we had never counted on gravity. We just thought in cartoon terms. Right. She hit the wall and just crumpled to the ground and hurt her ankle. We just thought in Bugs Bunny terms. Right. She'd just slide, and there'd be that bing. But when we did it and she hit the wall and just crumpled, we never even counted on that. So that would I guess account for something we never, never thought would expected. Exactly.
Gotcha. Well, we are pretty much out of time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you back on. The guest is Cindy William. The book is Shirley, I Jest. And Cindy, if I could, I'm going to reach out to your publicist, and I'm going to get you a copy of this interview. And if you could, please send that out to some of the folks that you may know. I think a lot of people need to hear this interview. This has been a great, great interview. Thank you so much for taking a stroll down memory lane with me once again. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
And once again, thank you, Josh, for a terrific interview. I thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Good. I'm glad that you enjoyed it as much as I did and everybody else listening.
Thank you, Josh.
No problem. God bless. Okay, folks, we are done. I will be back on Thursday night with the hard-hitting TV show. Until then, God bless.
Thank you for joining the Josh Bernstein Show. Unabashed, unafraid, and unapologetic. Holding America to a higher standard. For more information on the Josh Bernstein Show or to connect with Josh, just go to doublewidenetwork.com.